Well, I tell you, your mother has, first of all, very excited about your birthday. This was like a big thing, something about the date that's changed today. Your birthday changed.
I'm 38, so it's on the 19-year cycle where the Hebrew birthday and the
the big day. Right, but she also discovers after Shkia, before Shkia, something like that. And she has a lot of nachas from you, so that's and your children. So happy birthday. We've been working on this Ois Mem, Tzidkas Hatzadik Ois Mem, and as I said in the last week and even the week before, that Ois Mem is like one of the big famous words of Reb Tzadok. And in fact, this seems to be the first time, but I did a little research into this. Reb Tzadok speaks about this over and over and over again. Os Kuf, and in Takanas HaShavin, and in Kedusha Shabbos, and in Pri Tzadik. I knew this was a theme of his, but I actually went through, tried to go through almost all the different places that he talks about, and each one adds something. And the reason why we should spend time on it is because it's so yesodistic, not just that it's a theme of Reb Tzadok. The reason it's a theme of Reb Tzadok HaKohen is because he felt it was so yesodistic, and here we're learning the Torah of Reb Tzadok HaKohen. It's yesodistic. So briefly, what the yesod in the Ois Mem was that Iker HaTshuva, that the main tshuva who Ad sheyor Hashem einav sheyuz doinois keschuyos. And I was medayik in this lashon, and I think it's the right diuk. And that is that Iker HaTshuva, maybe just for a second, stop thinking about tshuva as a noun. You did tshuva. But Iker HaTshuva, the returning, the main returning, Iker HaTshuva is to get to the place, the madrega of Zdonos Nasik Eschuyos, where your Avera B'mezid becomes a mitzvah. Now, again, we all have learned that this somehow magically happens, that if you do tshuva me'ava, whatever that is, Zdonos Nasik Eschuyos, all of a sudden, chick, in the big computer in Shemayim, all your Averas turn into mitzvahs, your mezidin turn into mitzvahs. But Reb Tzadok is saying something much more, as he feels much more real to me, and that is it's not some type of a magical calculation that changes in Shemayim, but rather, Ikar HaTshuva, my tshuva is such, I'm returning to Hashem. I did something wrong. I want to fix my life and go back to Hashem. So the real madrega that you have to get to, madrega being the key word here, the real madrega you have to get to is that you understand that your averos and your mitzvahs are the same thing. Now, they're not the same thing, as I pointed out. You get an onish for your averos. Even if you do tshuva me'ava, you can get an onish for your averos. It seems to be clear. Could be even in Shemayim, you get some kind of an onish for your averos. But certainly here, you get an onish for your averos. So it doesn't mean in some type of a way that you've turned your averos into mitzvahs, but it means that a person can reach a madrega in this life, where in this life that we live in, all of us can reach a madrega of zdonos nasik eschuyos that I can understand. I can look back at my own panorama of events or the mistakes of history, and I could say, not just all for the best, but zdonos nasik eschuyos that was mamish the Ratzon Hashem, which doesn't excuse us at all, but it's a madrega in understanding HaKadosh Baruch Hu of Zdonos Nasik Eschuyos. So the chiddush here was that Zdonos Nasik Eschuyos is not a thing. It's a madrega that a person can reach to, and arrive at, which says that everything's min Hashemayim. Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. And this really has to be, I pointed out last week, this was the whole avodah of Rabbi Akiva all of his life, it seems. His whole life, Kol Yamai, Starti Al Pasuk Zeh, Masay Ava Yiliyada V'Akayman. His whole life was devoted to trying to work out how everything is the Ratzon Hashem. Kol Man David Rachmana Latav of it, and he was Meirach in the Echad. Like this his life was dedicated to Echad, and it's not like he chose some type of a thing, like I'll be dedicated to Echad. That's really the main thing to understand, that Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. That's why we say that pasuk. Maybe that's the most important pasuk of the Torah. Yeah.
So I just want to say in the part is Rabbi Akiva the only one was able to come back down to Shalom.
Come b'Shalom. So what's the Shalom? Very good. The Shalom is between Hashem and Elokeinu. Midas haracham and midas hadin. The whole we've explained many times that the whole going into the paradise was trying to understand and discover this kind of a chabura of Ben Azai, Ben Zoyma, Rabbi Akiva, and Acher. The whole thing was trying to discover why are the Romans killing us like this? Why are they torturing like this? What's this golus all about? That's what they were trying to understand. Tzaddik v'ra'aloi. And clearly from the Gemara that's the case. And they got to all kinds of places. Kabbalistically, how they got to all kinds of places. The Matatra in the Gemara says, and all kinds of things. But at the end, like Gil says, happy birthday. Nichnas b'shalom v'yotza b'shalom. Rabbi Akiva was good with the Echad part. He was good with the Echad part, yeah.
The best Echad is with the Madrega to understand one's own avonos, how theirs is.
Clearly, because that's what you're doing tshuva on. So I'm saying there's two madregas here, two things. Like one thing is to understand my whole life. Not to excuse my life or justify. We're not talking about like a cognitive dissonance here. We're talking about coming to the madrega of everything's Ratzon Hashem, even my averos. And I think the mistakes and sins, if you will, of history, which gets me to this very, very important point. Again, a chazar, but I want to validate myself here with something. Reb Tzadok immediately goes, well, if everything is mina shomayim and akol echad, so and HaKadosh Baruch Hu even manipulates my averis because that's the Ratzon Hashem. So now the question becomes Yediyah and Bechira, and that's what we were discussing. Well, if he knows, then I'm just a puppet here anyway, so why am I taking any responsibility for it? And which is, the most important cornerstone question in Jewish philosophy. If Hashem knows what I'm going to do, how do I have free choice? And the Rambam, as I pointed out, asked this question, and he says it's impossible to know the answer. Because with us, we and our das heim shnayim. He throws in this idea, whereas by HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'dai toyechad. So the Ravid immediately jumps on him and says, "You don't ask a kasha. You don't know the answer for it. Not on such a topic. You don't ask a kasha if you don't know the answer." So I posited, and I want to prove this point for a moment, that the Rambam was not saying he didn't know the answer. He was saying the answer. I'm not saying the Ravid didn't understand it, but I'm entitled to be mefarish the Rambam. He was saying, let me tell you the answer. The answer is that Yediyah and Bechira, you don't understand. You don't understand the world of Yediyah. You can only understand the world of Bechira. And why? Because with us, our minds and who we are, v'daitai, are two. With HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's echad. So I felt like that is the answer. The answer is that we are, and I'll say it again, we are addicted to thinking. Thinking is good. It's a good thing to think. It's a bad thing when everything, like I define myself by my thoughts. There is who, the Rambam says, v'daitoi. Now, the thing is that we want to understand everything with our thoughts. But you can't understand everything with your thoughts. But that doesn't mean that you can't, if you put your thoughts aside, that you can't understand it within. And it's a very, very deep level of tefillah and standing in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'chlal and attitude towards life where it's possible to understand something without your brain. Hashem doesn't have to do that. Hu v'daitoi echad. With us, it's very hard because our das is too attached to who we are. So comes out that there's a madrega of possibly understanding Yediyah and Bechira, the Rambam says, but not understanding it with my brain. You know, I always make this point that, like, here we say, Dalifnei mi'ato oimed. It's actually ma'akiv the Shemona Esrei. You have to know in front of who you stand. So what are you supposed to picture there? you know, anything you picture about Hashem is wrong. It's impossible to picture HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right? We have a whole lot of mizmiras about how hard we tried to picture HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's not possible. So what do you want from a person? Dalifnei mi'ato oimed. Know before whom you stand. Well, before whom do I stand? So the answer is, the simple answer is, that correct, you cannot know this with your mind. But Dalifnei mi'ato oimed is you can understand it with Bina. Who says you should go in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu with your brain? We're used to going everything with our brain. You're analyzing a Gemara, you're analyzing your bank account, you're analyzing, which is good. That's a fantastic tool. But when you're standing in front of Hashem, that's not with our seichel v'haraya. Dalifnei mi'ato oimed. There's a madrega of das which does not, which is inconceivable. And that madrega, by the way, is called Bina. Bina is believed. Now, I just want to show you something. And so far, this is what I said last week, but I show you that I saw Rav Tzadok in the Kehillas Shivtei. It's one of the beautiful svarim of Rav Tzadok. Os Yud Gimel. Here Rav Tzadok says, Yadua misoid hayediyah v'abechira sheniskasha by harambam. We know from the question of Yediyah v'abechira sheniskasha by harambam that the Rambam presents this problem. V'gila sham, and he reveals there the words of Rav Tzadok, and he reveals the Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva Perek A reveals the tachlis yediyasai b'mesha amar shelo yada. That the ultimate yediyah is to say shamar shelo yada tirut zelzeh. You know what he's saying? That kol zman you think you understand with your mind yediyah and bechira, so then you're not getting it. The only time you can understand or comprehend or whatever the right word is, the only time you can know the answer to Yediyah Bechira is exactly at the moment when you say, I don't know. What does that mean? This is the words, by the way. He says here in the footnote, the person who put this together, Alpi Maimer Sefer Ikrim, he says this idea you can find in the Sefer Ikrim Albo, that Tachlis Hayediyah Shaloi Neda. It's tricky.
Those who know don't know, and those who don't know.
Like that. Stronger. Tachlis Hayediyah, like the ultimate Yediyah, Shaloyed.
Here it says, Lamar Shiakir v'yavin.
So I'm trying to understand what is Yavin is okay. Yavin is Babina is in the lave. Yeah, is that with your IQ? You know, so a zaken that doesn't have his chachma any longer. Luchais v'shivrei luchais menachem b'aranacha. So let's say zaken doesn't have his chachma. So what are we just being mechaber him for the heck of it because he used to know? No. You see this person. He's if you see a 100-year-old tzaddik who can't think properly and can't speak properly anymore, but it's much more than that. It's the binas halev. It's just permeated. You can see the light shining from their face. It's a different. You're touching even a higher madrega that's not bogged down by Yediyah. So in other words, you're seeing somebody that went from Bechira to Yediyah. Or on the opposite end of the spectrum, you know, like I I think I might have mentioned this, like I was thinking about this a lot. I have grandchildren. You pick up a baby. You look at the baby's eyes, that baby looks at you. Like, it's so beautiful, right? What's so beautiful about it? Well, because er hat nicht kein Seichel. He doesn't have he's not trying to trick you. He's not trying to manipulate you. You don't have to read his mind, nothing. He's a neshama that the mind hasn't developed yet. It's a beautiful thing. Everybody is like, oh, baby. Everybody gets all excited when they see a baby. They get all calm when they see a baby until, so, it's the baby can only express itself emotionally crying. That's really so it's the same thing as I always tell the story, you hear it again, but Rav Soloveitchik, all of Sholem, so like the smartest guy in the world, so brother with the highest IQs ever, and but he had senility, he lost his thinking ability to the point that he couldn't say a bracha, he couldn't make kiddush. That's what happens to some people when you get older. I always tell the story that his daughter said at the Levaya, Rev Lichtenstein's wife, actually like a relative of ours, that she said the story that she went to her father, and the father is talking to her, and he said, I don't know who you are. I don't know who you are, but I can tell that you're a Bas Talmud Chacham. He didn't know who he was either. But there's something else besides for Yediyah. There's something else besides for our thoughts. But we're addicted to our thoughts. So here he's saying that Tachlis Yidiyas Mashamar Shaloye Datir Tzilzek Ki Ein Yediyas Seinu Ki Yediyasai. It's not like we have the Yediyas Hashem where it's all integrated. Who Hatirut Ha'amiti Al Kushizu? What the Rambam saying, says Rav Tzadok, is the right teretz to the kasha of Yediyah and Bechira. V'loik ha'harayvit shekasav sheniach b'kushya. The Ravid's all wrong that he says he bleibt shver. Not true. Well, what do you want to say, sir?
No, I was saying before. I was just asking before about why is it considered tshuva? Why is it? It's a madrega, but what? Is every madrega a level of tshuva?
It's a very important question, but I think so. I think that we have to mature out of the idea of we're standing on Yom Kippur, which we're going to get to in a minute, and we're trying to erase sins. Like Rabbi Akiva called it Tara. It's the thing on Yom Kippur. We can easily, that's a matana from Hashem, reach a higher madrega called Tshuva Me'ava. I think it's all tshuva. Like, think about the word. That's why I said it's not written necessarily a noun. I make tshuva. I have to make tshuva. People like to say that. Tshuva is a process, right? And what's it a process? It's a process of madregas. Even somebody like in the vernacular becomes a Baal tshuva. I don't believe that that's we talk about it a lot. It's not like this one-time thing. Okay, Baal tshuva. It's a process. Now you join the rest of the world of Yirei Shamayim that are on this path and on this process of getting close to Hashem, or more importantly, understanding what the Ratzon Hashem is and understanding what I'm doing in this world. It's a path. Who chops it in a second? Nobody chops it in a second. So that's Reb Tzadok. I want to indulge me while I take you further in my own research here. I was talking to actually Eli Behar about this, Rabbi Eli Behar. So he showed me this Or Gedaliahu, which is beautiful, and that's Rav Gedalia Shor, Shiva Tarvadas, Gonadir, who I got to meet a number of times. In the Parsha Paraduma. Paraduma. So Paraduma it's not like there are a certain amount of paradoxes in Yiddishkeit, Yediyah and Bechira and Paraduma. Same paradox. It's the same paradox, because how could it be that something which is Tameh is Matayir, etc.? We all know the problem, the paradox of Paraduma. So in this, he, in explaining this, I don't want to go through the whole thing, but his point is that you take something like death, like let's talk about the inyan of Misa, permanent. Sugya of Misa. So Misa makes us sad by and large. That's the Bria, that's the way we are built, that Misa makes us sad. If you have a loss, you have a loss. And that's what he calls an Eder, like there's an absence of this person, and there's a Yush, like you lost somebody, I mean, unfortunately we're feeling this like every day, we don't even know the people, and we can't take it, like, Klal Yisrael can't stand when Jews, innocent, good boys die. It's beyond taking. But we see it as an Eder. So I'm going to go front and back here for a second because it's so important. He says by Paraduma, Iker Tumas Mace. Why do you become Tameh when you touch a mace? Iker Tumas Mace mitoich hayush sheyesh la'adam. The mace comes from that vacuum. The Tumah comes from that vacuum, which is Yush. Shechoyshev, because we think ki amisa hu ha'eder ve'ein lo shum tikva. Like if all is lost, so let me put it in my words, which are really his words before, meaning something bad happened. Somebody died, something bad happened. So if something bad happens, which it is bad, it is bad in this world. Vaharaya, we said Shiva, and it's bad. But if something bad happens, there's a part of it, of course, which is Ratzon Hashem, of course, right? There's not an independent concept of Ratzon Hashem. Everything is Ratzon Hashem. So when a person falls into the Yush of Misa, what you're doing is you're acknowledging that something, which is natural and even Chayiv to do, that something bad happened, and that Yush causes Tumah. So,
why the Lashon Yush?
So why the Lashon Yush?
It seems like it's a mass. This side, you change.
How do you understand Yush? What do you say about Yush?
Someone dies, it seems like it's over. Because if you were the Rabbi Shemar, but you're not allowed to say, Ma Efshar La Sois, Snicham to the Gedufa. When you're not mobile, you're not allowed to tell a person, Ma Efshar La Sois. The natural inclination is to say, Ma Efshar La Sois.
Right. It's Rama. Yeah.
It's not her.
So define that. What does it mean there's no hope? Meaning that Hashem has become absent for a moment. That's what Yush is. Like Hashem took a walk. So in other words, we walk into a Hester Panim, and the Hester Panim feels like that Hashem's not there. Tameh. That's what Yush is. The moment I lose hope. So what? Oh, very good. The Balei Musar say, Yush is Shaloi Bidas. Yush is Shaloi Bidas. You went out of your mind for a minute. You could have Yush on a Chefza, but you can't have Yush on Hashem, like that there's no hope. I only read the headline, which you did also probably, but yesterday was the yahrzeit of Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, of Shalom. He was a great articulator of Judaism, the greatest, and his daughter spoke. I just listened to a couple of minutes ago, but one of the first things she said is that, quoting from her father, Rabbi Sachs, talking about the war and everything, she said, despair is not a Jewish concept. How could it be? I mean, you could fall into Yush, despair is Yush, right? You could fall into Yush, but you got to get out of there because we go further as a people. It's not even. I mean, she was quoting him. It's not a halachically correct place to be. It's just not a Jewish thing to despair. Wow, what a concept to think about. It's not a Jewish concept. I think this woman, the daughter, she had a moment of schus to give chizuk to millions of people because, like this one sentence became viral at such a difficult time for people in every different way. It's a difficult time.
When Radley gave the reports that there was Becky, Bechi was despair. And when we said it, we can't do Hashem.
Yeah, and we got a Tisha B'Av.
It says about the Rav and Spiritual, it says, Yesh, V'ni kolech mi bechi, ki yesh tikva l'apizeh. We don't have, the cry is despair.
Rachel. Yeah.
Rav and Spiritual says, there's tikva. Tikva means that Hashem is still here. It's still a future.
Uh-huh. This is such important ideas. So I go back to, I went out of his order, to explain what tumas meis is. So tumas meis is that vacuum which you've created, which makes it feel like Hashem is not there, and it's matame. I got Chazal say, I don't know if you know this, but Chazal say in the beginning of Parshas Chukas, Chazal say that Hanogeya b'meis tamei, that's the pasuk. If you touch a mace, you're tamei. Hanogeya b'meis tamei, avalena meis atzmoi tamei. This is Chazal. It's not that the mace is a shtik tumah. The mace is fine. It's our yush at the moment. So comes a paraduma, and he brings here, the Medrash says that, just like the Medrash says at the beginning of Chukas, that where did Avraham Avinu come from? Came from Terach, Ovid of Zara. So there's this recognition of that bad is not really bad, but it is bad. And here's the thing: it is bad in our minds, and we even celebrate the bad, or commemorate the bad. Like we have a Yom HaShoah, we sit Shiva, we do all those things, and we cry, right? Shloshi Yomim Lebechi, what does it say? Shloshi Yomim Lebechi, like you're supposed to cry, but at the same time, there's this this background thing which is beyond our Yediyah, and that's the chap here, beyond our Bechira into a world of Yediyah. So he says it like this. He says, Ayin, he brings Rav Tzaddik, by the way, and then he says, Ayin Sfas Emes. Sfas Emes says, let me just read this to you. V'zeu inyan gam kemashet tshuva mi'avos doinos nasa kischuyes ki be'emes. Ava chet hoya by Ratzon Hashem Yisbarach, that even the chet, be'emes, had the Ratzon Hashem Yisbarach, rak sha'achoyte mishtalem al chetoi. Work on that word. What does mishtalem mean here? Huh? Get paid back or become shalem. Ishtalmut. What does he mean? Va'ayin b'sfas emes parshas Vayigash. What's Vayigash talking about? Yosef, right? Here's Yosef. Aval ata, says the sfas emes like this. Aval ata asa tshuva mi'ava v'nepach kol achet l'schus. After the whole mechira and the whole terrible story, so there was a tshuva mi'ava. V'zeh hera lahem Yosef. This was Yosef's kiruv point. Ki lemichya shlachani. That I was sent here, there was a reason for all this. Well, what was he saying? That they did okay? No, he wasn't saying that they did okay. They did good. It's not clear to me that he was Michael them, even. But who was Michael who? I don't know. Like it's unclear. They talk about it. But what is clear is that when I look back over the whole panorama of events, I can see Tshuva Me'ava. I knew that the whole thing was Ratzon Hashem. The whole thing was Ratzon Hashem. Ki lemichya shlachani v'cheinu amida. Ki chol hasibois mishavim mibal hasibois. Everything comes from Hashem. Umikol malkam hachoyte mishtalem al chetoi. Nevertheless, that doesn't take away the responsibility that we have for a chet. So the brothers of Yosef could be chayiv, and we find Asar Arugei Malchus, culminate things that went down in history. But in Hashem's mind, kiviyachol, lemichya shlachani. This was just something that had to happen, the progress of history, the creation of a Jewish nation in Mitzrayim. Which is unto itself interesting. The Klal Yisrael was born in Mitzrayim, so to speak, as a nation, like Avraham Avinu. Avol kishim yiskabel b'tshuva nasa mikol chetz chus mamish. But at the point of tshuva, this is the tricky part, Chaim. Kishim yiskabel b'tshuva nasa mikol chetz chus mamish. Like if you could get to that point, so now the Mechiras Yosef became a schus. Hey, I advanced Jewish history. I did the Ratzon Hashem.
It's not dafka you ma'aseh, it's just what happened to you.
Right, but you participated. It's a schus. It's a schut. It doesn't get you off the hook, but you can get to a madrega. Hey, no, you didn't send me here. Come to a, like, if you brothers of mine want to do tshuva, understand, lo yatem, just get closer to the Ratzon Hashem. Hagam, ki chein haya mitchila, even though they did send them there, as you say. Aval ata, acharat tshuva, nishapech hakol liyos rak ma'aseh elikim. Shasa tshuva. Then he says, I am Tzidkas Hatzadik, ois mem, shemavar gam kein inyan zet. Okay. But this is the Chiddush, this is the reason I'm reading the first sentence. Aval achshav hakol behester. Like, right now, Ra is Ra. Killers are killers, and bad people are bad people, and bad maisim are bad maisim. Hakol behester, we can't pretend to understand the maisa. This is so beautiful what the Rambam says. Nobody's going to get it. Nobody's going to get it that this bad thing is good. It's too hard. Not that it's too hard. It's not something that we can do with our thinking. Now, stay with me carefully. V'hu rak, the understanding of this, ba'bechina shel avnasa deliba talya. Avnasa deliba talya. It's a Gemara Megillah Chav Daled where it talks about Ma'aser Merkava, all kinds of things there in the Megillah. But the Gemara says an expression, which is important for us, that Avnasa deliba talya. There's a bina which belongs to the leyv and it doesn't belong to the seichel. Avnasa bina, and that's why when you know something with your mind, it's called a machshava. When you know something with your heart, it's called bina. If you can get the two together, it's called das. That's the ultimate das. If you can, But v'ashivos elavavecha, the idea of tshuva, hashivos. So where are you going to? You're going to your leyv. The leyv, it represents the regesh. It's a different place, it's a different way of knowing than anything you would know with your seichel. If I find when I was in yeshiva, so there was a Baal Tshuva, and he came to Yiddishkeit through via, this was back early 60s, 70s. He came to Yiddishkeit via like the Eastern Eastern religions and disciplines. He was a Buddhist, and he was this and he was that. But those good old days of the and. I remember him telling me this, I think he was older, he was probably 10 years older than me. He finally ended up in yeshiva. He was a smart, very smart guy. He says, you can't get a Talmud Chacham to meditate. So Lolech, they're so trained to use their brain and to analyze everything. He's talking about the big Talmud, like somebody shvach maybe, but a person whose brain is so brainy, you can't get them to put it aside for a minute. I remember making this point. I had no idea what he was talking about, by the way. But I feel like now I understand what he's saying. That this is what we're trained to do. This is what we should be trained to do. This is good. Like a scientist should be trained to do scientists. L'havdil Talmud Chacham should be trained to Rav and Abaya and to Dinim and should become a labdin. But no question about it. But there comes a time. Which is very hard for we who think, to be like the Chasidim Rishonim, Shahayas Shoyin, Sha'achas. One of the Lashonos of the Gemara, Shoyin, Sha'achas. So what is Shoyin, like still, What are they waiting for? Mashiach? I mean, what's the Shoyin, Sha'achas, meaning Can I just be? And if a person, so this is what the Gemara means, this is, as he explains it, this is the madrega of Avnasa Deliba. It's an important madrega. Avnasa Deliba, with which you can get to Zdoinos Nasa Kischuyes, with which you can get to Yedian Bechira, and as he puts it, you'll never understand it with your brain. because it's not with that. It's not about the thinking. It's about the bina b'leiv. What am I learning from here? Not that when the Arizal says, as we learned, that there's yediyah in bechira and it's no kasha gamzemes v'gamzemes. He says shnei emes because this is in the world of atzilus and this is in the world of asiya. So it helps, but it doesn't help so much. But here he's bringing it to a much closer place, where here it's that bechira is where we choose here. We make a choice. Like a person says, I don't have any choice, meaning that I wasn't able to work on what I'm thinking about. Like, a choice means in your seichel. But there's also a place of yediyah, and it's not in the world of atzilus, in an esoteric sense. It's in the laiv. So if it's in the laiv, you can know something like we stand in front of Hashem. You can know something with your laiv, which is all over the Torah, by the way. Once you know this, it's all over the Torah that there's such a thing as knowing something in your laiv, and that's very different than knowing something in our thinking. A whole different story.
What did you put them together, Machshava and Bina?
Das. Chachma, Bina, Das.
It's a pasuk. The pasuk says, "L'vavo yom v'shal." Bina b'leiv, which is tshuva. It says that's why Rava of tshuva is after Das.
Yeah, fun. Yeah. It's fascinating, by the way, that like the Gemara says, Nashim daiton kalos. Okay, like Nashim daiton kalos. Gemara says bina yisera nadaslam. They have a bina yisera. So are they smarter or are they not? And of course the answer is that they're smarter in the world of Bina, and the way Chazal was magdrid, and perhaps in processing information, the Bechinas Nukva specialty is in Bina B'leiv. So it doesn't mean emotional or not intellectual. We know already that that's completely not true. It's completely not true. Some of the greatest scientists in the world are women. I'll tell you a very quick story. I got roped into something. There's a museum of tolerance in Yerushalayim, which I saw, and I have no tolerance for it. It was like intolerant. So, anyways, okay, just like an interesting story. Like all the politics that went around the funding of it, and too much this, too much that. So the whole thing fell apart. There is no museum of tolerance. I got like the Museum of Tolerance, a Jewish museum built on an Arab cemetery. Hello. Here, go figure it out. But so now they just got like a number of millions of dollars to rebuild the Museum of Tolerance, and they want to do it more right this time than they did last time. Last time was politicians kind of involved with tolerance. So they got me to come to this meeting, a Zoom meeting. This meeting with I think there was like 8 people on the screen, and me, and we're talking about what should the Museum of Tolerance be. So on the screen is a Muslim guy, about my age, brilliant guy. I just actually have to admit I learned a lot from him. He said things very, very well. Lamdan, this Muslim guy, and he's the head of something like Israel, something like Jewish, Arab, Middle East relations. That's what he's like. He's supposedly a man of peace. There's the head of the reform movement in Israel. So she, everybody has to go and introduce themselves around the screen. So she introduced herself. My name is so-and-so, and I'm a Torah scholar, Talmud scholar, and a Rosh Yeshiva. That's how she introduced herself. Okay. And Yaakov Katz, the editor of the Jerusalem Post, who's a brilliant guy. I have to say the Kishron the amount of brain power on the screen, even though I didn't agree with any of them, but about anything, but the amount of tremendous amount of IQ on that screen. Like there was like 8 people like that, you know, and everybody was smarter than the other. I'm trying to why I started telling this story, but the thing is, my only this woman, my only, you know, she said at the end, you know, she said, Rabbi Haber, so nice to meet you. And she's an Israeli speaking. So nice to meet you. I'd like to invite you to speak at my, I think it's called the Alma Institute or something, in Tel Aviv. And the only thing I can think about, but you're not going to get an invitation back to come speak in KSY, right? like that's not going to happen. So I decided that I am not tolerant. I'm simply not a tolerant person. Like, in fact, I said to her the middle. I said, you know, she was talking about, well, how can there be? She said, how can we have peace when Orthodox Jews are sacrificing goats at the Temple Mount? So, like, first of all, how many people sacrifice goats? You'd be hard pressed to find 300 people in Israel out of the millions that sacrifice goats at the one even sacrifice goats at the Temple Mount. And second of all, like, you're supposed to be tolerant about Batlach. Like, do you go through the park and see what people are barbecuing on there? So it's a carbon slump. What is it about? Is it making a mess? It'll clean up. Like, what's the problem? Anyway, she's arguing with me, so I said, were you once a Haredi? She said, yeah, how do you know? This is like a very interesting thing. But my, what I think what I mentioned, first of all, I just want to tell the story, but there's a, in order for there to be any kind of tolerance, one has to go into the place of Bina and be out of the place in Seichel. Meaning, if there's going to be any kind of, you know, what happened now that there's so much achdus in Eretz Yisrael now, Baruch Hashem, Halavai shall last, is because this whole situation took us out of our, like, you know, political, like, for a minute, we'll do that later. Say it right out, we'll do it later. But right now, it's like a Bina response. Like, this is our country, and we have to make it work. And you can only, and I think also, like in a marriage, there has to be a bechina of Bina, and it can't just be like an intellectual debate. There has to be a place, even if there's an intellectual debate, of Bina. So all this I'm saying is because this helped me a lot, because habachina sheba avnasa deliba talya shebalevi Yisrael, because in every Jew natua hamuna azais ubeliba humargish shumakusher leratzin elyon ein saif. There is a place within us, and that's in Bina, where we're makusher ta'kadosh baruch hu. So isn't that the place to be ma'ached? Aval ha'haker zeh b'chachmas ha'adam. Now, to try to concretize that with our own wisdom, b'shia nikr line, call efshar. Can't happen. V'lachein amar Shlomo, that's why Shlomo said, Amarti achachma v'hi rechaika mimeni. The context of Shlomo HaMelech's famous sentence is that the whole Sefer Mishlei was trying to bring very, very high concepts down to earth. That's what the Gra says in Akdam. What's Mishlei? Mishlei it's proverbs to help everybody understand very, very deep and esoteric items. But when it comes to this Yediyah and Bechira, this is the way the Chazal and the Gra explain it, when it comes to Yediyah Bechira, or when it comes to the Davnus of the Liba, Amarti Achachma v'hi rechaika mimeni. I'm trying to understand with Chachma v'hi rechaika mimeni. It's not something that can be understood. Ki Shlomo ratza lahavi dvarim ha'elu l'tfisas ha'adam ha'yedei mashal. She a nikr la'ayin kol zeh ha'lavush shel oirei insoif b'abriya. Hashem has many levushim, and trying to get through those levushim. V'davar zeh efshar lahaskel uzulasai ki ba'avnus ha'deliba talya. You can't simply not something. So we have to stop using our brain. Here's the chiddush of this whole thing. You have to stop using your brain. Let's figure out how to be smart enough to not think. Like, how can you get to a madrega of brains where we don't use them? It's not going to be something that Umas Oilam are ever going to understand. And he goes on to explain Parah Aduma like that. But that's the Yisoid. The Yisoid of Yedir Bechira is, one is in the leyv, which we can understand it, and one is in our seichel, and those are two different things, which is exactly the words of the Rambam. Those are two different things, and there could come a point where we could say, Oz Yamalei Schek Pinu, where maybe this even in our own life, Oz Yamalei Schek Pinu, we could be zocha to some kind of an awakening, where all of a sudden, I get it, and you can't even articulate it. And you can't even understand it, but you can get it. And by the way, most people don't get it, like anything. But you can get it. You can hop it, and that's okay. We'll stop here. And next week, I just want to go just to give you an introduction. The last few lines here in this Ois Mem, and I want to start with that, is where he talks about the Sa'ir Lahazazel of Yom Kippur, which is also like a very difficult concept to understand. And so we'll spend Amir Tashem next week a little bit of time on